But I think it is important to answer that question, not just as someone who worked with the show, but as a creator. Are any of you familiar with my other series, ElfQuest? You guys, some of you guys know about this. For 30 years now, my husband Richard and I have been producing a fantasy series with many of the elements of Beauty and the Beast in it, which is why I so identified with the show. As I was watching the show, I said, I can do this, you know, so I wanted to get involved. As a creator who has created characters that have gone into the fans' hearts, ElfQuest has a very active and very, very vocal fandom. I certainly relate to Ron Koslow's experience with you guys, because you guys were his first experience of fandom. He had never received feedback of the kind he was getting from you, and he had never had the feeling of his audience coming so close, coming into the inner circle before. When this happens to a creator, it has a light side and a dark side. Because a creator creates something and people are drawn to it and they love it and they show their love. The dark side of it is that some people get the idea that they too are part of it and they know how it should go better than the creator does. And then they start blaming the creator if the story doesn't go. Richard and I have done many things in our 30-year storyline that have cost us readers, have brought us outbursts that couldn't be seen, read in print. We made choices along the way that some very avid fans disagreed with. The point is, when you create something as archetypal as Ron Koslow developed with Beauty and the Beast, you become responsible for its integrity. Its integrity can only come from your heart. And your heart will tell you what direction to take the characters. It's not that you lose touch with your characters. I haven't lost touch with the ElfQuest characters in over 30 years. But if my heart tells me that this is going to happen to this character, or I suppose I could say if this character tells me this is what's going to happen, I have to listen to that over anything I know the fans will say or object to, because that is the only way a creator can maintain their own integrity. I have seldom met anyone with as much integrity as Ron Koslow. And his dedication to his characters and to the arcing fairy tale of the show, it broke his heart that he couldn't finish it the way he wanted to. And I would be very arrogant here to pretend to say that I know what Ron Koslow was thinking, but I'm basing what I'm saying on conversations I had with him, how he felt about it. And he really felt he was doing a balancing act between where he truly believed the storyline should go and where this amazing new audience that was so verbal and vocal that he had never experienced before, he worried a lot about how the audience would take some of the decisions that were made. But I would be willing to go right to the guillotine and say that he never lost touch with his characters.
I think so too. And he never wrote a word I couldn't play. None of them did. And, they're very odd words. And, yeah, absolutely. Everything you said. Ron Koslow is a treasure for television and for film. Some of his films are really wonderful as well. I love The Lifeguard. And he recently had a project coming up. I don't know what happened. I heard maybe it didn't get picked up, but I really want to see his work back on television because, in terms of the experience of the fandom speaking up, I'd been on Fame for a long time, and we had a different thing there where it was I don't want to say us and them, but it was sort of just us, and the audience was just out there somewhere, and I was very uncomfortable with that. So I was very comfortable with what happened with Beauty and the Beast, and but it would be very difficult if it was my job to write it. If I was writing it, if I was in charge of it, I would have hidden it completely, and probably never read a thing or listened to anything, because, and Ron did read things and did listen to things, and he knew what was going on, and he listened to us when he came back and said, been to this convention, here's what they're doing. And but I think even that much could be really, really, really difficult.
Yeah, that didn't mean he would pop when they said totally.
Right. But you see, the thing is you want to keep yourself, like, I didn't even watch the show for the first, I don't know, I had done 10 or 12 before I felt confident enough to watch the show and not blow my little magic. You know, because if you start watching it, the first one I watched, I was like, oh, everybody's doing this kind of quiet style thing. Everybody's going, Catherine, you're everything to me. Roy's sort of saying, Vincent, you know, I don't know what we're going to do. The world above is threatening us. And Mouse comes in and he's like, and especially considering the level of the cast and all, if I had thought about that for a second, if I had seen the show too early, I would have pulled back, because I didn't have that kind of nerve. It would have been, but you see, I would have lost my nerve had I looked. And I think for a show creator, a showrunner like that, not listening at all is actually safer than listening a little bit, because you might start losing your way. And you don't want to start, you want to keep with your heart so much that you don't want to be confused, because your heart starts wanting to make everybody happy.
Our lead character in ElfQuest is an elf named Cutter, and one of his issues is being as, you should play Cutter someday. Couldn't he? He could be an elf. Yeah, definitely. One of Cutter's main issues is being as good a leader as he can be, and he has a line that kind of stood out where he says, listening too much is as bad as being deaf. So, as a leader, he listens to his tribe, he listens to their input, but ultimately, he's the one that's got to make the decisions. So.
And then live with them.